Well, it turns out more people are headed back to the office, but enough to fill up all the empty space in the Big Apple? That's the question. Robert Frank has exclusive new numbers for us. What can you tell us, Robert?
Well, good morning, Becky. Only about half of New York City's office workers will be back in the office as of the end of January, and the numbers aren't likely to get much higher over time. A survey from the Partnership for New York City of 188 of the largest employers found that 49% of employees will be back in the office on an average weekday by the end of January. Nearly half will be in 2 days a week or less, and 1 in 5 is going to be fully remote even after that. Now, with fewer workers coming in the office each day, New York companies are planning to cut back on space. More than a third say they plan to reduce their office space in the next 5 years. 22% of financial firms say they plan to permanently reduce their workforce in New York over the next 5 years. That is the highest share of any industry.
That's what we're concerned about, is this combination of circumstances that are going to kind of break the hold that New York has had on companies, on jobs, on people. And that's going to be a big challenge for the city.
Now, the value of commercial real estate in New York City has fallen by $29 billion since the pandemic. That has already cost about $2 billion in lost property taxes. And Becky, property taxes, as we have to remind people, are the largest source of revenue for New York City.
Usually property taxes don't go down very rapidly. What you see is that nobody ever reassesses on the downside, at least not with any hurry. Not that they assess very quickly on the upside either. But if they've already fallen by $2 billion, that's got to be a result of something other than reassessment, right? That's just empty office space.
Right. And it's not going to get much better soon, because remember, a lot of leases in New York City are long-term 10-year leases. So people weren't able to get out of their lease during the pandemic. But as those leases come up for renewal over the coming years, they're going to break those leases. That's also why we're seeing a lot of sublease space on the market. But this is a bad sign for New York City, especially on the commercial side. We've seen a comeback on the residential side, but the commercial side not looking good.
Hey, Robert, this is very different than every commercial real estate investor that we speak with. Anybody who's got properties, whether that be everybody from WeWork to the big holders of commercial real estate property, every time they come on, they say, oh, things are great. Everything's back. Things are back with full force. How do you match up what they're saying with what you're hearing in terms of the tax revenue in this survey?
Well, look at the numbers. Right now, only 28% of workers are back in the office in New York City. That is among the lowest, if not the lowest, in the country. You combine that with the fact that we have the highest tax rate in the country, combined New York City and state, at 14.8%. We have the longest commute in the country. And the fact that even though property prices came down a little bit, rents and property prices in New York City are still astronomically high. So as the partnership says, that lock that New York City had on companies is broken, and that's going to be tough to deal with.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.